I didn't have the camera ready with me. I had to go inside and get it. But look at the big ears on that baby. And how dark it's gotten. The mother is walking up there. Much lighter. Oh, both of them are here. Oh, thank you. Doing the lawn work I needed done. Oh, just saw those weeds. Thank you. Hello, guys.
Open quote, it's a cool September morning. The house is at 66 degrees. I'm in a t-shirt and sweatpants. No heat on yet. Outside, the season is shifting. The walnut tree is starting to turn, leaves just hinting at gold. The deer are back this morning, standing on the little patch of grass out front. 2 fawns, no more spots, one darker than the other, eating walnut leaves. One wanders behind the Camaro. I can only see the top of its head over the convertible roof. Big ears twitching. I'm talking to it. Eat all the weeds for me, will you? Save me from mowing. Life is all around me. Squirrels are running the fence line, bouncing across the road. A magpie lands in the pine tree and calls out. I answer back. I've always done that. Imitated animal sounds just for fun. Snoopy and I even have our own call and response. He meows, drops his head. I meow back, drop mine. He freezes like, what the heck is going on here? Maybe in 13 years no one ever did that with him, but now he does it with me. We've become a pair. And as I film all of this, the deer, the squirrels, the magpie, the walnut tree, I think about what it means to be a watcher. Not just a person who looks, but someone who observes, remembers, feels. The other day I heard Joe Rogan and a guest talking about the Book of Enoch, about the watchers who came down to observe humanity. It struck me. That's what I've been doing my whole life, watching, recording, remembering. Not to collect trivia, but to understand patterns. And when you start to see patterns, you start to see where trust, respect and manners have frayed. You see that this moment, whatever we're living through, isn't brand new. It's an old vinyl record, skipping. The lies told now are echoes of lies told before. The inflation we're feeling now is a rerun. Last year's specials at the grocery store don't even bring prices back to where they were a year ago. Everything costs more, wages don't keep up. They tax my sandwich but not the separate bread and meat. They take a little more, and then they tell us it's progress. I'm not saying this to be bitter. I'm saying it because watching gives you context. We're told AI is the great threat to humanity. But look around. Humans have always been their own worst enemy. We build systems that squeeze ourselves, we erode trust, and then blame something new for the damage. Being a watcher also means carrying memories that aren't always pretty. I remember the buck I shot, the rabbit I wounded. Rabbits scream like babies. I had to finish it, and I've never forgotten that sound. I remember my grandfather, the smell of wood shavings. I remember my mom holding my face when she was dying. Good and bad, being a watcher means you don't just scroll past life. You hold it. And I think that's why respect, trust, and manners matter so much. They're not abstractions. They're the small acts that keep a society from breaking. You can't respect what you don't look at. You can't trust what you refuse to hear. You can't practice manners with what you think is beneath you. Our media, our governments, even our daily interactions, they've forgotten this. They treat citizens like marks to be managed instead of people to be respected. They treat students like numbers instead of minds. They treat the land like a resource instead of a living partner. But we don't have to keep playing that rap record. There's another track. It starts with watching, truly watching, the way the Amazon fooled us. For centuries we thought it was empty, poor soil, no civilization. Now LiDAR reveals massive cities, engineered black soil we can't even replicate. Intelligence we dismissed because it didn't look like ours. The walnut tree closing its wound. The deer trusting my yard. Snoopy meowing back. Life signalling all around us. If we want to rebuild respect, trust and manners in education, in politics, in daily life, we have to relearn that skill. We have to become watchers again. Not voyeurs, not doom scrollers. Watchers. People who notice the small details that make life warm and human. Because once you start noticing, you can't stay cynical. You start seeing possibilities, you start seeing solutions. That's what this Lunar Rift is about. Not doom, not nostalgia. A challenge to look, to listen, to remember. to demand leaders who respect us because we've learned to respect ourselves, to demand media that tells the truth because we've stopped rewarding clickbait, to teach kids manners by modelling them instead of outsourcing them to an app. I'm not naive. I've lived 70 years. I know how systems work. But I also know this: patterns can be broken, civility can be rebuilt, trust can be earned, manners can return. We can stop the record from skipping. We just have to stop pretending the noise is music.
I had to go in and get the camera. There's a very loud squirrel. And if you follow the fence, down at the bottom, there's a cat waiting. It's not Snoopy, it's a different one. And the squirrel knows it, so he's bitching about it.
This morning, Joe sent me clips of his backyard, a squirrel perched on the top of a chain link fence, tail flicking, letting out sharp, angry chirps at a cat far down the fence line. Magpies swooping in and out of a walnut tree, a northern flicker bending under a neighbour's shingles to pull out insects. Snoopy crouched behind the Camaro, quiet, alert, eyes on everything. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd call it noise, just animals being animals. But what you're really seeing is communication, structure, discipline. The squirrel is not losing its mind, it's giving a warning. The flicker isn't messing up the roof, it's cleaning out pests, doing its job. Nature runs on rules. The signals are clear, and every species, even the smallest, knows how to read them. That's the first lesson we've forgotten. Ancient listening versus modern speed. In live, insects, birds, frogs, all calling in a layered symphony. It's overwhelming to a modern ear, but to people who've grown up there, those sounds are as clear as reading a newspaper. They tell you who's courting, who's warning.
Hello. Bonjour. We've come down to go for a spear, but the tide is too low, and the only way in and out with the boats is this little river, which is a mouth probably a couple of 100 metres behind me here, which goes out to the open ocean. But there's a couple of really big rocks that are standing guard at the mouth. So as the tide gets higher, we'll be able to take the boat out this afternoon. But right now, we're going to jump in the river, swim out the mouth, and see if we can get a fish right out the front of the village. See how we go. I haven't been briefed if there's crocs in here or not, but if we were back at home in Australia, I would not be doing this. Saltwater crocodiles would be all through here. So this is what the majority of the islands use for their vessels, these longboats or banana boats. The benefit of them is that you can have a pretty low horsepower for how much weight that you can carry throughout the boat. They're also quite narrow, so they can cut through the big waves and swell, travelling distances between the islands, because very few of them have roads or infrastructure for vehicles. So yeah, they're a very practical vessel, and you'll see them all through parts of the Pacific Island and Papua New Guinea. We're just walking through this little jungle track on the way to where the boat's anchored up. The rainforest is just alive. It's like almost deafeningly loud, just all the different insects, all the different bird life. It's pretty special. Can you hear that? Imagine if this here was your walkway to go to school every day. Hey, good morning. Hey, have a good day. Let's go on to a high five there. Hey, good morning. And it's pretty cool, this track I'm on is just laid out by little pieces of coral through this dense rainforest on the edge of this creek beside me, and it connects a few different villages, and there's been a lot of kids all dressed very smartly heading to school. How's that? All with their backpacks and like little notes and books. Pretty cool track to walk to and from school every day. Hi, good morning. Have a great day at school. Yeah.
No? What do we leave at home? What do we leave at home? Yeah, snow here. Anyone know what snow is? What's snow? Huh? You know what snow is?
The little boy is 5 years old, so I'm going to have to do it. Okay. Do you come all the time, or is this your first visit?
This is actually our third time in Paris, fourth time in Jamaica.
Returning visitor. All right.
But we decided this year when the children were being a little bit older, we wanted them to see the
see what
school,
it's like.
see what's
They are 3 and 4 year olds.
It's just not seeing it.
Are they being taught to read and write already at 3 and 4?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
That's a head start on our kids.
Here's part 2, written to pick up right where part 1 leaves off. It's still a spoken transcript, meant for you to just drop in as narration. It runs about 30 to 35 minutes at a natural speaking pace and moves from your morning reflections into the bigger picture of media, politics, inflation, and manufactured consent, but it still has warmth and your trademark observational style. The Watcher's Gift, part 2, full spoken transcript, open quote, when I finished filming the deer and the walnut tree this morning, I sat down with my coffee and started thinking about what happens when a society stops watching, when we outsource our attention to headlines, talking heads, and curated feeds, when we let someone else tell us what's real. That's when trust, respect, and manners start to crumble. Not because people are born hollowed out institutions that ignored housing bubbles that turned news into entertainment. If AI were rolled out with transparency and genuine accountability, it could be a tool for rebuilding trust, real-time fact-checking, fairer resource distribution, even personalised education at a scale we've never seen. But instead we frame it as a villain, because villains sell. I'm not saying this as a rant, I'm saying it as a watcher. Patterns repeat, empires rise, lose civic virtue and fall. But there's always a choice point. The fall of Rome wasn't inevitable. It was the result of decisions. Our erosion of trust isn't destiny, it's the result of incentives. And incentives can be changed. What would it look like to change them? It starts small. Individuals practicing radical honesty and radical empathy in their own circles. Parents modelling manners at the dinner table. Citizens rewarding news outlets that get it right, not just fast. Voters supporting leaders who tell uncomfortable truths instead of easy slogans. Schools reclaiming the right to set boundaries that are firm but fair. It also means thinking differently about power. Politicians and media personalities aren't monarchs, they're supposed to be stewards. We don't have to accept systems that treat us like children. We can demand systems that treat us like partners. Imagine a government budget where citizens can see every line item in real time. Imagine an AI moderator in Parliament that flags misinformation on the spot. Imagine a curriculum where kids learn digital literacy alongside reading and maths so they can't be so easily manipulated. None of this is utopian. It's practical. We already have the technology. What we lack is will, and will is built on trust. If people believe their efforts matter, they act. If they believe everything is rigged, they retreat into cynicism. That's where we are now. High-tech cynicism. But cynicism is a decision, and decisions can be reversed. I think about Snoopy on my lap, the deer in the yard, the walnut tree healing its wound. None of them read Chomsky, none of them watch news, but all of them operate on a kind of quiet trust. The deer trusts the yard enough to step close to the Camaro. Snoopy trusts me enough to mimic my meow. The walnut tree still sends up leaves after a hard winter. Life leans toward connection. That's our clue. Respect, trust and manners aren't nostalgic values from a simpler time. They're survival traits. They're the lubrication that lets complex systems function without seizing up. If we let them erode, the system locks. If we restore them, the system flows. This is what part 2 of the Watcher's Gift is about. Not just naming the problem, but naming the path forward. Starting where we stand, in our kitchens, on our balconies, in our classrooms, and then building outward, using the very tools that were supposed to divide us to rebuild something more honest. It's not quick work, it's not glamorous, but it's possible. And if a guy in Kelowna can zoom in on a walnut tree, film deer, and talk back to a magpie while thinking about Chomsky, maybe that's a small act of rebellion right there. Paying attention, staying human, choosing connection over noise, and maybe that's enough to start a new record spinning. Close quote.